Al asked me a great question. I love this one, Al. It's not one I get asked often, but it's really good to be able to reflect on this. So, Al's question was, if you could go back in time and talk to yourself when you first started triathlon, what tips would you give yourself based on the experience you've gained during the last 35 years? That's just 37. My first triathlon was in 1987 at the end of the summer, and then I took it seriously over the winter. Switched over. I carried on playing rugby, but I was trying to prepare for an Olympic distance triathlon the next year, as we called it then. So 1988 to 2024, 36 years ago. Yeah, I know for those of you watching, I don't look that old, but honestly, I am. So, oh, if I could have had a conversation with myself at this time of the year in December, November, December in 1987, what would I have been telling myself? Well, I would have suggested, firstly, that I get some coaching advice. Now, there weren't any triathlon coaches way back then. Triathlon was in its infancy, so most of the people taking part were trying to use the lessons they'd learned from swimming and the lessons that they'd learned from cycling and what they'd learned from running if those are sports they took part in, and then build the program based around that, which meant most people were doing far too much because they were trying to follow a swim and a bike and a run program instead of putting them all together and reducing the total amount of volume. So that's the first thing. I would have tried to find coaches that could help me. Then I would have focused on improving my technique, particularly in the pool, because triathlon swimming is hugely based around technique. I would have found a running coach who could help me to move efficiently and run better so I didn't get injured, because that is something that limited my progress a few years later and probably for many years after that. So I would have learned how to run efficiently. Now, I've said a couple of times there that rather than faster. I think what I was trying to do is probably what a lot of you have thought is if I'm going to race a standard distance triathlon at this intensity, then I must train at this intensity in order to be fit enough to do the event. And perhaps I didn't realize soon enough that I needed to build a big endurance engine. So I hope that a coach would also have guided me towards spending more time doing lots of long, steady training, which back then was only 20 years after Arthur Lydiard had been doing this high volume, moderate intensity work with the Kiwi runners. So high intensity training wasn't really a thing then. But I believed, and like many others did, that that's what you need to do to get faster. So I hope that somebody would have pointed me in that direction. And then I would have focused on the long term. I would have thought about what I wanted to do in 1, 2, 3, 4 years' time and started working towards that and being slow and patient with my progress rather than thinking I needed to get super fit by next June, which was 6 months away, and therefore I needed to train as hard as I could in that period and you know achieve all my goals. Run 10 minutes faster over 10K, swim another 20 seconds per 100 quicker in order to be out of the swim up with the top guys. So I was trying to do too much too soon, and as a result of that, I ended up getting injured. And as a result of that, I then missed time. And so what that meant was I had a bit more of the progress of the hare. Lots of frenetic activity, do lots of training, get injured, have some time off, then come back, try to make up lost ground, try to make some gains, get injured or ill, have some time off. So I think those are the main lessons. I would have found myself a coach. I would have tried to become more efficient, certainly at certainly at swimming and running. I would have focused on building an engine and I would have focused on the long term. Now, those are the most important elements of training anyway for anybody now. So if you can put those to one side, then you'll be doing pretty well.